Hi everyone, welcome to the Fit and Frugal podcast. I am your host, Tawni Nguyen. You can find me on IG at Tawni Stores. Today I'm with my friend, Jon Lopez from 9 Doors Down. Jon, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Tawni. Thank you for having me. My name is Jon Lopez, co-founder of 9 Doors Down. I'm 1/4 of the group. Originally from California, now live in Las Vegas for about a year and a half. And my company would acquire multifamily and self-storages.
So the 1/4, your wife is the other managing partner, right?
Yes.
So how is that like?
She is the catalyst. So she's always been an entrepreneur her whole life. Me, I always had a W-2. I was always comfortable, like in my role of whatever company I was working with. And but it took me a long time to see the light. And it was herself and Anthony, our other partner, where they were already doing it. They were starting businesses. Anthony has a restaurant. My wife was running a theater company out in LA. And when COVID hit, that's when we kind of like put our eggs in one basket and kind of informed the group. I started acquiring properties. That was the summer of 2021. And we've just been very fortunate enough to steamroll ever since.
Because I think that's the part where most people get stuck is they get comfortable with their W-2s. Like, can you talk more about the mindset that it took for you to actually quit and make the shift into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, I didn't quit, ironically. So I'll tell you the story. So we moved out here September of 2021. And then New Year's Eve going into 2022, the company I was with for 7 years, 15 of us hopped on a Zoom call. It was like 9:30 in the morning. I remember New Year's Eve was a Friday that year. And like 10 minutes into the call, just want to let you guys know you guys are getting laid off. And so it was at that point where I was like, well, for one, I wanted to make sure I was showing that I was happy being in Vegas, enjoying our first New Year's really for my kids and my wife. But man, back in my mind, I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do? I mean, I knew that I could have gone back in the work, in the W-2 sphere, in sales, because, sales is always in demand. But it wasn't until maybe like that Tuesday or Wednesday, I literally woke up and I was like, I ain't going to be a bitch. We were already planting the seeds with 9 Doors Down. I'm going to see how far I could take it. Worst comes to worst, I could always just find another job. And so glad we did.
Yeah.
Or so glad I did, because last year, if someone were to ask me back in like 2019 what we would have accomplished, I would have laughed in everybody's face because I wouldn't have believed in myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward now, I think you guys have your capital raising course too, right? Like,
yes.
Like, whose idea was that? To teach the next gen?
It was so a lot of the things that we do, we don't really start it because it's something like it was like an idea. It's a result from, I think, a series of actions leading up to it. So as far as capital raising, we've learned some things along the way. We joined several masterminds. And we started, we started seeing what works for us and what didn't. And I think we were all on that big Zoom call, and you were on it as well. And even prior to that, we've helped a couple people give advice and just like for them to start their own fund. But on that call, Anthony and I, and also Tawni, we started realizing, I was like, I think we have some value to add. Like we could, are we experts at it? No, but we could share our story with others that are trying to get into capital raising. And what I always tell people is like, have we raised 20 million? We haven't raised 20 million. We haven't raised 15. We haven't raised 10, but we've raised close to 6 million. And part of the program is like, we want to help others raise their first $1 million for whatever business. Really, it's an agnostic program, so it's not just real estate. And we felt like the timing was right. Rates were going up. LTVs are dipping lower and lower and lower. And as through experience, like we could submit all these LOIs. We may not find out if we get accepted like 2-3 months down the road, but during that time, we could take our fund, capital raise through our brand, not necessarily deal specific. Now we have the option to invest actively or even passively or joint venture into several deals.
Yeah, I still find it really interesting that you like work with your wife, and you guys live in a similar household to like, does your kids live with you?
Oh yeah.
Is that chaos?
Yeah, it's
distracting?
All five of us are there. From 8:30 to 2:00, I'm just focused on just 9 doors down, because I know once 2:00 rolls around, I gotta pick them up. I gotta drop them off to their gymnastics, their jujitsu, and then my day is just literally for the kids from up until we go to bed.
Yeah, because there's a lot of syndicators or capital raisers in this space that's also like high-driven entrepreneurs, but we don't have kids, we don't have a family, so that's why I wanted to understand it from your perspective, because you have 3 kids. Who lives with you, and you also work with your wife. Like, what is your work-life balance like? Like, like how do you stay grounded in terms of separating your goals and your roles?
Yeah, I mean that's a great question. We kind of just we go with the flow, We have a good understanding of where we're trying to get to, and we're willing to take all the sacrifices it takes, because we know that the actions we do now, it's just gonna help us 2, 3, 4, 10, 15 years down the road. But what I think what makes it worthwhile is I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah.
Like for me, it doesn't feel like a job. Like I'm meeting so many new people. I'm meeting tons of bright minds, and I'm always learning from the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah, I think that's a really exciting part about the joy that comes with the conversations that we get to have at these networking events. Is not just like a social aspect component only, right? But because people are always like, build relationships, do this, do that. But at the same time, like if you're not nurturing your current relationships, then you're just adding numbers to your Instagram followers or adding numbers to your phone number. But at the end of the day, like you don't really have real contribution or values to add to each other's life. Yeah. And I think that's one of the aspects that people kind of overlook when they talk about networking.
Yeah, totally. Right? I mean, but so I've learned that along the way. So like, when I first moved out here, the company was still young, and I was like, I need to start going to meetups, and I felt like I was forcing myself. I feel like I was like going through the spiel like within the first 3 minutes that I meet someone, and I was like, no, I sound silly doing this. I was like, I'd rather just like, let me just have a beer and let me just chop it up, just like regular people, whatever energy is meant to come my way, I'll attract it, and whatever energy is not meant for me, then I won't attract it. And that's kind of like how I kind of approach things.
Yeah, because I get like repetition breeds success, but half the times I got a networking thing with the little, I call them like what are they called? Business cards ninjas? Yeah. Where they just kind of like hit and run you real quick. That used to be me. Like, hi, nice to meet you. Here's what I do. It's like a 30-second
it's like a
word
big vomit. Yeah.
And they're just like, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you about myself. And here's what I do. And I'm just like, oh, okay, like calm down. Yeah. Pump the brakes, dude.
Yeah. And then, but when you talk to people who's been seasoned, who's been doing it for years, you can't even tell that they've been doing it, because they're just so calm, reserved, and like, they kind of wait for the questions to be asked, and then they kind of like spill it out. Yeah. So I'm trying to get to that point.
Yeah. Kind of like, what energy do I have to put out there to gravitate into the conversations that needs my energy, not just like telling people, here's what I do, like contact me. And and at the same time, I think it's more of a frequency for me. I'm just like, I don't vibe with you. Like, why would I want to call you? Like, no offense, but at the end of the day, if you need a favor and that's like the last, card out of your, I put mine in a gallon bag. I should probably do something better with where I stored the cards. But like, you can't really be reaching out to someone without a prior relationship, right? And you're like, hey, remember me from like 19 meetups ago? We like had this 30 seconds share of whatever it is that you do and I did at the time. Yep. I still find it really funny because we still continuously do that. And I still see that, not that it's judgment upon what people do and what people choose to portray themselves, but like when you and your wife go out together, do you guys feel like you're not targeting, but more like spreading your energy outwards to where like you go after certain conversations and she takes the other half, or how does that work?
There's really no method to that. I think we're just kind of like being ourselves. So like the more conversational it is, and like more storytelling, and just more like the questions will come. I hate to say it, but like one of the biggest questions that people always ask one another is like, oh, what do you do for a living? And then I don't necessarily lead off with that, but if they ask me, then, I'll give them like a really quick statement, but I won't really elaborate on it unless they do ask me. And then when they start asking me, that's when I'm like, okay, I think this person might be a little interested, and maybe we could take it a little bit further, because the mindset has to be there. And not everyone has a mindset. And I don't want to be the preacher, but like, oh, you gotta invest in value add self-storages. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, like you don't want to teach someone what to do with their money because it can kind of come bite you in the ass later on. Like, I met John, this is what he told me to do, right?
Exactly. 100%. Yeah.
It's like, why should I trust this guy? Like, why should I do business with him just because he told me what to do with my life or whatever?
Right.
I also think that it's like kind of funny how people looking at adult lens of it, right? Like, do you feel that it's harder to network when you have kids and you're in a different state because you have more writing on the line for you?
Not necessarily, because it's all like time management, right? And then like for example, commercial collaborators, that's like adults only, like where it's like 6 to 8 or 7 to 9 or whatever it is. But that's also one of the reasons why we kind of started Investors Lounge Network, because for one, it's like on a Saturday, it's during the day. We find venues where it's okay to bring in the kids, and we bring in like dope DJs. We kind of just change it up and just have it more of like just really a relaxed atmosphere with good IPAs in hand while listening to good music. And with Investors Lounge Network, we don't really have any presenters or guest speakers, because we just want to just like talk to people, and naturally deals will come about through those conversations.
Yeah. I think that's where I met Leo, which you were talking about.
Leo,
right?
yeah. So he's the founder of Investors Lounge Network. Yeah.
And it's funny because we never talked an ounce of real estate or what it is that we do, what he invests in and all that stuff. But what we came to talk about was actually about our past and like all of the shitty stuff that we went through when we were like, our teenage.
Yeah.
All of the things, his dark past, like all the stuff that we're ashamed of or we don't feel is of value to bring into this world's conversation, right? Because we're supposed to be like adults and investors and have this image, kind of like the preservation of self, right? Of self-image in front of other investors, because you don't want to deem yourself in a certain light. But at the same time, I find that organic connection through conversations like that about people's actual stories and like understanding why they are the way they are makes me actually want to invest with them before I actually find out what they do.
Right.
And it's more enlightening for me to actually understand them from like a deeper, more grassroots perspective of like, okay, like this is why your approach to investing is different because you made this mistake in the past that kind of, like that's like, I guess you're investing trauma in a way, right? Versus the really ballsy people that are more risk adverse is because they don't have much to lose, right? Is because they've lost it all once. And how do you, gain back your confidence from that? And I think more stories like that, I would like to bring that to light, not just like people's successes and all that stuff, but like the dark, grimy stuff that no one really talks about.
Because we're just people at the end of the day. There's a yin and a yang to everyone.
Yeah, like everyone has their shit. They go through their own stuff, and then how they come out of it and bring that light into this world that I feel like it's still filled with so much darkness in terms of like we don't see each other for our own humanity.
Yeah.
We only see each other as like this track record on paper, and it's just like, we see OMs every single day. It's like, this is my track record, this is what I've done, all that stuff. But they can be like terrible husbands, like abusive fathers. They can be going through their own stuff, but they just have to preserve so much of themselves on the OM.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important to me. It's that I choose who I invest with is because I resonate with them on that deeper level as like human, right? Like man, woman, whatever.
Right.
And
and the human element of just connection, like it's business will come, the money will follow. Like the name of the game, it's the biggest thing you do, like, under God's eyes is to help others. And and however you help others, like that's what I try to do. Whether it's through like education or like someone really needs to place their capital in somewhere. But even if they're not an investor, like I like to show if they ask, I like to share the light of what I know. And do I know everything? I'll be the first to tell you I don't know everything. I'm still learning as I go. But even if they don't invest with us and they invest with someone else, I'm happy because I know they're going through the process of capital preservation and potentially, creating generational wealth for their family.
And that why is like really important too, right? Because you do want to build generational wealth, but at the same time, if you're not doing it purposely and with intention of like building fulfillment out of it, like that's why I kind of like your guys' event because you can bring your kids to it. I've seen.
Yeah, we bring the kids,
like everyone's kids, and it's just like it's not just like about getting drunk and shooting up the shit, like chopping up is it's fun, but like if your kids don't know what it is that you do and you can't really explain to them, like, hey, I capitalize, like, like a 6-year-old's gonna be like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Right. So if you can't really simplify the methods of how we're making money and how we're building generational wealth to like a 6-year-old,
Right.
you don't really know what you're talking about if you can't explain it to a kid.
And like with kids, like if you tell them exactly what you do, they may not understand it right then and there, right? But if you bring them to enough events over and over and over again, they'll connect the dots themselves. Like, oh, mommy and daddy's doing this, and okay, now I get why they're throwing these events, because it helps, it helps with their business, and they're helping out to help other people, and so they'll see it over time. And my kids, they kind of understand it, but they're not there just yet.
Yeah, I think those acts of service go a long way in terms of like the value that you guys actually bring to the space.
Yeah.
Outside of just your brand and like, your doors, your acquisitions, like, yeah, it's important, right? Because at the end of the day, like we do want some kind of monetary trade from it with the time that you've put into it, because people don't really see how many hours you put behind closed doors for these acquisitions, like how many hours you have to spend talking to brokers, lenders, all this stuff, putting the deals together, like how much risk is actually at stake doing real estate. And once you have like a family riding on the line, I feel like your drive is
it much, propels,
right?
Like I change as a person on the day that my oldest daughter was born, July 10th, 2009, because when I found out that Tawni was pregnant, like immediately my mind was like, okay, I need to get health insurance. I got to make sure Tawni's okay. I got to make sure the baby's okay. But ironically, we signed the closing docs to our first property on the day that Desiree was born.
Oh,
so
really?
we're in the hospital. Tawni's all laid up on the bed. Desiree's in like a little crate. And we had the notary come in. We were literally signing closing docs. But even then, like, I still didn't know what the powers of real estate was then. I was just trying to like provide for the family and trying to like, honestly, we're just listening to what our parents was telling us, like, buy real estate right now, buy it. Like, okay, I'll buy it.
Yeah, but at what cost? That's funny. Like the day you become a real estate investor, you also became a father.
Yeah,
that's a lot of pressure, dude.
It was, but I relished it. It was our reality, and it's just how how the dice kind of rolled for us.
When you and Tawni like speak to each other as a team, as half of 9 Doors Down, when you talk about like your future goals, vision, and like alignment that you want to set up for your kids, like what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of that is for one, it's knowledge. Just the knowledge of how capital works, and the knowledge that the middle class is getting wiped little by little by little by little, right? And so growing up, being my parents immigrated from the Philippines, I was taught, go to school, get your college degree, work for a great employer, retire, right? That was their game plan because it worked. But our generation, it's kind of, in my eyes, it's even riskier because like, for one, if a government was going to tell you that your business is not essential, like what happens after that? You know what I mean? Like who's to tell me that like I can't put dough or I can't feed my kids for no matter what business that I'm doing. But that's when I think entrepreneurship it's I'm not going to force it down my kids' throat, but I want to expose it to them so that way they'll be able to better decide when opportunities do come later down the road once they're adults.
I think the biggest lessons coming from entrepreneurship is the power of having a choice. Yeah. The choice not to like make decisions based on what you're taught by your parents, is not to repeat whatever works for them or whatever they knew at the time, because knowledge is kind of limited, right? Like generationally speaking, because they didn't have access to all the resources we have now. Yeah. Now there's like free media everywhere, and there's just so much consumption, and it's just, I think it's so saturated in terms of like how much information you're actually able to get about what you want to do with your life. So people are kind of
imagine being kids now and like
I'm being a YouTuber.
I'm like, how do I know what's true or false? And like, this is just so much content coming my way as a young mind. Like, it you could follow the light or the dark, I guess, as a kid. That's the scary part.
Yeah, and then as a parent, like, how do you put yourself in their shoes, being exposed to the things that they can see right into the world, and like not injecting more fear into them, is because like my choice is to not watch the news or follow whatever I don't follow. It doesn't dictate their choice to make decisions based on what they consume. But at the same time, like, is that more of a limiting thing that I should, impose on my kids, is to limit them for the things that I don't believe in, because that's taking away their power of choice. Yeah. So it's like a paradox thing, right?
It is. Yeah.
It's like, don't do this, but do this. It's like,
we just try to teach our kids is like, there's always three sides to a story. There's like party A, party B, and then there's the truth, right? So it's like, I hate to say it, but I tell the kids, it's like, turn on the news just so that way you can see what kind of crap they're trying to shove down our throats. And then you could kind of like, not necessarily get a game plan, but you could have an idea of like how the world is forming around you if you pay attention to it. But if you don't pay attention to it, you're like, and you're steady on the creation side of things. I think that's where more good and more positivity comes about, because you're not moving out of fear. You're moving out of like loving intentions of like trying to do good and share the goodness with others.
Yeah, like actually coming from a space of like bringing what you believe into the world instead of mass producing things that come out from your bubble of comfort, come out from like all of this. I don't want to say like a conspiracy theory lens, but kind of like that bubble of just, how would you say that? Like controlled media.
Oh yeah. The big six of media. It's
yeah.
Like, I mean, we could dive into that all we want. I don't know if there's the right podcast, but
yes, it is.
I got my tinfoil hat on just in case.
Let's get that dark shit out, right? Like, what don't you want your kids to know? What do you want to hide your kids from?
I don't want to hide them. Well, I think there's things that are age appropriate, right? But the world is grimy. I'd be doing them a disservice of like, if I were to tell them just like, hey, trust what, the media is saying, or trust whatever this business or whatever. Like, no, you gotta do your due diligence on stories or just like, or even like other people, and like just be, I don't know what the word is, maybe like cautiously aware. Like, you still want to love others, right? But at the same token, like, you got to be alert to the signs if things are not feeling right.
Yeah. I think I call that a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah. And it's natural.
Yeah. One of my favorite journalism professor, he told me, he was just like, always that trust but verify kind of thing, which is what I fucked up on a lot, is that I was too trusting, right? With businesses and personal relationships. But at the same time, he was just like, if your mother tells you she loves you, like, check.
Yeah.
You can't really say that based on the personal relationship you have with that person from an established point of relativity, right? Because a blood connection does not really mean that they actually have your, the greater goods of what their intention is for you, because they don't know any better.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's kind of hard to like put that lens on as a parent. So that's why I'm always intrigued by investors that, are also married and also this, because I wouldn't say it's easier, right? But at the same time, we don't have any of these things depending on us. Like I have a dog, but I don't count, right?
Well, I'm also envious of you, because like now's like you have time on your side. Like I'm already 43, so like for me, I'm trying to play catch up for what I haven't done since I was 21.
Yeah.
And so when I talk to guys like John Kim, I'm like, bruh, I was like,
you're young.
I was like, dude, I want to see you be successful because I'm envious of your age. You have time on your side.
Yeah, and a lot of times it doesn't really come down with like time management. You just got to manage your energy in that space while you're giving it, right? Just because like, let's just put that as a hypothetical situation of just being aged as a decade difference, right? Because I'm 33, you're 44, and you feel like you just have less time and you just made not the right decisions that kind of put you in the path of the journey that you're going on now.
Yeah.
And you just kind of feel like you're missing out on something, and that you've missed out on a lot of things, like not creating that path for yourself.
Yeah. And
a lot of that power kind of darkness I feel is where I connect with a lot of people too. Cause I did a lot of stupid shit when I was little. Because I was chasing money. I was like, okay, like I just want to not spend time with anyone, like not tell anyone I love them, just because I cared about racking money for my bank account,
right,
with absolutely nothing for my soul, and it was just so empty, right? Because that void that I don't think a lot of people understand with entrepreneurship is it comes with existential like loneliness almost, right? Because not a lot of people understand why your ambition or your level of grit or resilience is what drives you. Is because you're like, well, fuck it, if I lose it all, I lose it all.
It's like that first layer of like your support growing up, like would be like your friends and family. Ironically, they doubt you, they don't believe you, and like I wouldn't say they want to see you fail, but at the same token, it's like, back in 2020 or around 2020, And I started like researching a little bit more about like commercial real estate. And one of my homies in the Bay, we're part of this like Telegram group, and like at the time it was really more about crypto and stuff. And then I was like, we could find properties out in like duplexes or whatever out in Indianapolis for like 50, 70 grand. And I was like, guys, we could just form an LLC. We could split it 2-3 ways for whatever, right? And then my boy was like, I don't even own my own house. Why would I want to invest in real estate?
Yeah.
For me, that was my first moment where like, oh shoot, it is a mind. I didn't know it was a mind shift or mindset just yet, but that's when I started realizing I was like, damn, my train of thought is a little bit different than what like some of the guys that I grew up with.
Yeah.
But I should have said, well, a lot of people live at home, but they still own their own businesses.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't respond that way because I didn't really connect it.
Yeah.
Now that I look back, and I was like, oh shoot, maybe I was like starting to like, I wanted to expand, right? And I wanted a group to expand with.
Yeah, because I think your own evolution kind of is not even for you, but if you're kind of staying stuck in that cycle of hanging out, the same 5 friends or whatever, and whatever they make decisions for themselves kind of has an influence on you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, the basic saying on social media is like, oh, you are the average of 5 people and all that stuff. But it's also like your thoughts, your choices, your intention with your life, your health, which a lot of people, I think, in most of their 20s, they spend time trying to look cool and like achieving status and like looking rich, but they're destroying their health every weekend and drinking. I did all of that,
Yeah.
So I think alcoholism like majorly played a role in that, in my perspective on how I changed my mindset. And I don't think that has to do with, like how people live their life, is because how you're saying like if your friend doesn't want to invest, like it kind of makes you second guess yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's a smart dude. Like he has a good role in his job. And I was like, I did. Now that you said it, I did second guess myself. Yeah. I did. I totally did.
Am I making the right decision? Like, how come I feel this calling towards this decision, but like my friends are saying like, don't do it.
And that's why me moving to Las Vegas, or me and Tony and the kids, like. Now that I look back, it was the best life hack we've ever done for ourselves because we moved to an area where we didn't know anyone. Yeah, Tony has our aunt and uncle out here, but as far as like friends and stuff, and we had some friends from LA that's already out here, but as far as like what we were doing, like we put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation to try to get comfortable, and then I think that's what helped us because we were forced to like meet people. We met you and everyone else in this great like community out here in Vegas. Like it's nuts.
Yeah, our social circle, like it's such a flex.
It's pretty powerful.
It's a flex.
It's
right?
Like, I'm kind of curious to see where everyone's stories are at like 5-10 years from now, because like I see everyone, like the last event at Moses' event, and Andy's like there was like 5 deals that are like were being discussed just that night alone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, dude, like this is awesome. Like they're all just like working on deals, and for a lot of them, this might be like the first or second deal. Yeah. But they're going into that realm, and it's so inspiring to see.
Right. And it still comes from the similar lifestyle that, like it does happen at a bar. Yes, like some people are still drinking. But
the talk track is different.
Exactly. Yeah. Like who says you can't still do the same things that you enjoy? If you enjoy going out for a beer, go. But like just have different conversations. And I think that's where people are so limited in terms of the belief of what they can and cannot do based on the friends that they hang out with.
Yep.
And it's such a, like, that's what you're saying, right? Like, it's such a powerful life hack, because I've met some of my best friends out here, and I'm just like,
like, you're from Southern California.
Yeah, and I'm like, fuck, I moved here with no friends. I don't know anybody out here. I'm like what the fuck do I do with my life?
One of our good friends in LA who owns a restaurant, so we threw an event in Glendale, Investors Lounge Network out there, and she didn't want to come because she thought we were going to have PowerPoint presentations.
Oh.
So, I mean, when I learned that, I'm like, okay, maybe I got to do a better job of like, hey, we're coming out here to kick it, no presentation. So like we may like make it more of an emphasis for just for the regular people, come by, just hang out. This is just, you'll end up talking to someone who's meant for you to be introduced to, like,
Yeah.
But when I heard that, I'm like, that's crazy. Like, dude, I was like, do people really think of us like that? Like, do we come out sharky and
like you're sales pitching like every person you know?
And it's but our objective is like the total opposite, right? So
like just want to hang out, talk to whoever you want, and like the more you put what you want out there, like, hey, I'm looking for this, and then it's just you never know, because there's so many connectors in that room. I was like, oh, I just talked to this person. You should talk to this person. And I feel like that is such a superpower that we have out here amongst us, is that we know someone that knows someone that knows someone, not directly in terms of like what we're looking for, but they always are like one touch away, right? Like one touch point, 2 touch points away from making that decision, talking to a thought leader, or just being in that space of like being in front of a decision maker that could totally change the trajectory of like what they need to do. Totally. The passion that they're after, like what is it, you know, like chasing their dreams or whatever, they're just limited. And that's funny. Like, do you guys ever do PowerPoint presentation? I don't think so.
We never have. Well, a lot of it's like, you know, we might be a little bit selfish, but like, you know, going to so many conferences, going to so many like meetups, I found my partners in the lobby or like, or at a cafe, right? And just like hanging out. And not to say that not having presenters or seeing a PowerPoint is bad, because it's good. Like there's a lot of value to it. But I think it just really depends on like what level you're at. And I think like with kind of where I'm at right now, like I get bored when I hear myself. Like when I was, you know, when that one time when I was a guest speaker at an event, I told the guys like, dude, I'm gonna try to make it less than 10 minutes, because like I want to get to networking. And
you're like, here's my story.
Maybe later down the road, I mean, you know, like we may bring it on, but I think our friends with their meetups, they're providing that already, right? And so if we were to do it, you know, maybe like more of a webinar, which we've done in the past, you know. So I mean, we're not totally ruling it out, but like I feel like we're kind of like creating our own identity with something like just totally different. Like it's kind of bringing my two passions together, you know?
Yeah, because you DJ.
Yeah, and I'll bring in like turntablists who like with won battles and stuff.
Yeah,
and like, these guys are in my crew and my friends, and like for them to see the investor mindset, and then for the investors to see like fun-loving like DJs, like in my opinion, it's like, in a selfish way, I'm like, this is the best of both worlds. This is freaking amazing for me to see.
And that's a good persona too.
Yeah.
Because not only it's like your avatar, it's like, hey, that guy that invests and DJs, like it kind of shows that you can be both. Like there's a duality.
I'm just a regular person.
Yeah, that enjoys this, but at the same time, you're heavily, you know, doing acquisitions. Like cool, like drop beats acquisition. I don't know if that's like a DJ name or something.
It's just, you know, like I think entrepreneurs, I think when they first started with their business, like what's that term? Imposter syndrome. There's a lot of that, and like, you know, and which is kind of natural. Like I definitely had that when we first started with 9 Doors Down, but it kind of goes back to like my b-boy hip hop side, where like originality is what is going to separate you from from everyone else. Like you're God's gift to the universe. Person A, B, C, they have their own gifts, you know, and it'd be selfish for me not to share my passion and my gifts with the world and just keep it to myself, because I'd rather share it so that way somebody else will latch on to it, they'll learn it, they'll master it. Now they have their own style. And the next thing you know, I'm learning from that party.
Yeah.
And that's how I see like our capital raising program. At least going through that direction.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up imposter syndrome, but I think a lot of times it's like more self-imposed on the limiting beliefs that people have, and they kind of stay stuck within themselves.
Yeah.
But I think it's really selfish, because like you said, like everyone does have a gift, and it's even more selfish for them to withhold that gift from others.
Yeah.
Because you never know how your story might impact someone else. Yeah. And for me, like it's not even about followers and who watches you or your content or whatever, but if your message or whatever you say or someone else may say that you get to talk to, right? To share that like on your journey, if that can change just like anyone's life at any moment, like just knowing that like they're only one decision away from a completely different life. Like I think that's the most powerful thing.
The power of one more.
The power of one more. Yeah. It's just like, you just need that one extra nudge or that one sentence that someone just say on a random Tuesday that you're deciding to listen to a podcast. Yeah. And you can completely change who you are by the next day.
Yeah. Like
instead of staying stuck and miserable.
Totally. Like I remember the very moment where like, holy cow, I get multifamily and I see why people are doing it. I remember that moment to this very day, because if it didn't happen, I don't know. Like, I don't even know if I'll be living in Las Vegas, to tell you the truth. Like who knows?
Yeah. You're like, that's the day I drank the Kool-Aid. And that never looked back.
Never looked back. I was like, yep, that's when I want to drink the Kool-Aid through a power hose, and I was like,
spray it on everyone.
I just want to learn whatever it was. multifamily, self-storage, like I'm all in. Bring it to me.
That's so funny. What is like one takeaway that you want someone that's kind of stuck where they're at to hear today?
You know, I think the media and the culture, like, you know, even if you go through a drive-through, a lot of times people always say, be safe. Nah, man. Take risks. Take a calculated risk on yourself, bet on yourself, because you don't know what it's going to lead to. You really have no clue. But unless you don't take that risk, is it scary? Absolutely. Like, do you know where it's going to go? Could you have some bumps in the road? Probably, but in my opinion, there's really no failures. It's just all lessons.
Yeah,
it's all lessons that you apply to the next one. And you know, the best businessmen out there, like, they've failed countless businesses before finding that whatever that one. So yeah, be the opposite. Don't be safe. Take calculated risk. Take a calculated risk. I cringe every time someone says it. Okay, be safe. I'm like, even my mom says, I love you, Mom. I love you. Yes, I'm being safe, but like, I gotta get outside the box and see what else is out there.
Yeah,
create something.
Yeah, because I think that's what people are afraid of, is the failures, not even like the fear of failures, but they see obstacles as like the bump on the road.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, like, it's just a bumpy road. Like, you just got to learn how to maneuver on that road.
Yeah.
Like, the road's not ever going to change for you into like a straight path. If you think you're going the right direction, like, you can change your direction and where you're going in life, but the road's always going to be bumpy. Like,
oh yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's a car analogy.
Always I mean, you could underwrite all you want. You can't underwrite for fires. You can't underwrite for floods. You can't underwrite if the freaking SWAT team came there to freaking take down a group of people in a unit. Like,
life is just life.
You can't underwrite for those things.
Yeah, you can't put that in your spreadsheet.
You can't. Totally.
That's funny. That was such a powerful message. It was great talking to you today. I just want to acknowledge you for your presence and being here. I really honor like the time and like the space, and I'm really grateful for like these messages that I feel like has really helped me throughout the years and connecting with like pass out like-minded people, right? Like people that's actually on the same frequency of where I'm going in my life. So I just want to thank you.
I like the fact that you talk about frequencies, because that's huge.
It's huge.
It's massive. Like,
I don't vibe with a lot of people.
Coming from the music realm, like, it's a dark frequency that's on in pop culture.
Yeah.
And whereas if it's on a higher frequency, chances are it's not being played in the clubs or whatever. So
the dope shit is not mainstream. You know?
No, it's not. It's not.
Dope people are not mainstream either, nor are they liked probably somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me.
We can stay here and shoot this shit all day. All right, so thanks again for tuning into the Fit and Frugal podcast. I am your host, Tawni Nguyen. You can find me on IG at Tawnisaurus. And of course, thank you, John, for your time today.
Thank you. And you could follow us on 9 Doors Down on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So that's NINE. You can also follow us on 9doorsdown.com.